Hey everyone, welcome back to Nerddom. My name is Matt, and we had an interesting time at WonderCon, to say the least. And I'm going to have a full video on my thoughts and feelings on how WonderCon went, what's the future of the convention, and what's the future of conventions, nerdy conventions, in general. But first, on the first day of WonderCon, on the Friday, I was actually walking around the show floor, and I went to the small publishers area, and we ran into something that caught my eye. It was Royce Adkins from Stone Harbor Comics, and he had some pretty cool stuff out on his table, including a 3D animation that he made in Unreal Engine. So on the last day of WonderCon, I decided to go back, make sure to get one of his comics, and I wanted to do a little interview with him, and he said it was cool. So without further ado, that is what this is. I don't know. Cool.
What's up, guys? I'm Royce, the creator of Stone Harbor Comics, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the comics that I got going on here at WonderCon 2024. So, my first series here, this is called Biopunks. It's a sci-fi action series starring our three main characters here. This is Caden, Naya, and this guy right here is Otto. And they all had physical differences that they had altered by having this thing here called the spinal cord surgically implanted on them, and it gave them special powers. So Caden, he now has super strength, Naya can cause temporary paralysis through her touch, and Otto can teleport. So now there's this bad guy who's trying to hunt them down because he's found a way to actually take and harness the energy that's stored in these cores and harvest that to make himself stronger. But to remove these would actually kill our main guys right here. So now they need to band together and try and stop him before he can do that. So yeah, that's Biopunks, full volume, 5 issues included in that. My second series here, Legend of Althea, it's a coming-of-age story where my main character, Althea, she undergoes an artificial heart transplant that gives her the power to heal people. But it comes at a cost to herself because the amount of pain that she heals, that pain gets transferred back to her. And then this becomes a bigger issue when her dad starts to fall to a terminal illness, where if she were to try to save him in her current state, it would actually cost her own life. So now she needs to find a way to strengthen her powers in order to save her dad before it's too late. And so I have a third series. It's not out yet. It's in pre-order. It's called Outcasts. And it's about our main character here. His name's Aaron. He's an ex-super soldier who develops asthma through all the intense surgeries and tests that they put on him in order to make him a super soldier. And they end up kicking him out of the program because he's no longer the perfect specimen. So in hopes to kind of get back into their good graces and then maybe even get enlisted back into the program, he becomes a vigilante to fight crime in his city using his, what I call the battle hailer. It's this high-tech staff that's half weapon, half inhaler. So he uses that to kind of help him keep going during his fight when his lungs start to tighten up. But in his crime fighting, he actually runs into this very dangerous gun-running gang where they got their hands on some really high-tech weapons that are very dangerous to a city. So now he's trying to foil their plots to wreak havoc in the city.
Cool. Awesome. What kind of nerdy stuff did you watch or read or listen to growing up?
Oh, a lot of things. I mean, I was really heavily influenced.
Forget you, WonderCon. The party will live on.
We'll never stop.
Yes, I won't stop.
Well, I would say actually my first kind of venture into what you would say the nerd world was, my first memory was actually watching the very first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. And that was my first, I guess you could say, superhero thing that I had watched, and then that eventually turned into the cartoons, and then later down the road, that's when I actually ended up finding about the comics. I actually found out there were comics later, but
me too. I thought it was a cartoon first.
Yeah, exactly. So the movie was kind of like my gateway into that world, and then my dad was a huge Spider-Man fan growing up, so he got me introduced to Spider-Man, and then that opened up the whole window to all these, these superhero comics that I now love. I loved watching Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! When the anime scene was first getting big in the early 90s. And all that just kind of like really just kind of mixed inside of me and stayed with me and once I got to the age where I knew I wanted to try and start telling stories of my own, I kind of took those influences and started, throwing them out onto paper. And eventually now we're here and I got some comics.
How old were you where you think you started writing or drawing or taking those ideas and actually putting them to paper?
The first time I tried to actually write, my first comic book. I was probably about maybe 7 or 8.
That's sick.
And my superheroes were literally me and my group of friends in school. The characters were Rick Man, Rubber Band Man, Cloud Man, Rain Man. Yeah, it was very simple ideas, but the whole thing is I just wanted to make me and my friends superheroes with weird names and weird powers. That lasted, I think I made like 2 issues, and then I didn't really think too much of it. Then as I got older, I actually found a love for filmmaking. Went to school for film, started writing scripts and screenplays. So all these stories and these concepts that I just told you guys about started off as scripts first. And eventually that carried over into comic books because, writing scripts, after you're done writing them, you then need to figure out a way to make them into movies, which costs a lot of money to do. So I kind of found comics as a way to get my stories out there quicker, right? And then not really having to worry about people giving me permission to tell my own stories. I can give myself permission. So that's how I ended up here.
And you self-publish, right?
Yes, self-publish. Everything that I've done was just researched on my own. A lot of trial and error. A lot of money wasted. No, I don't want to say wasted, but
you learn from it.
Yes, yeah, you learn from it. So yeah, it was just learning the ropes and then getting into the convention scene, seeing what works, even just talking to people, seeing what interested them the most about stories. When I used to pitch these stories, I would tell it in a different way, and then people were like, that doesn't make sense to me. So I had to kind of figure out what people even liked about my own stories that I might not have even thought of.
How far did you get with the film program?
I graduated.
You graduated?
Yeah,
okay.
graduated.
Did you actually work in the industry?
A little bit. I worked on sets. I worked as a sound guy. I worked as PA. Couple of different positions. But my main bread and butter is I do want to be a writer and director. And so those jobs are kind of a little bit harder to come by, especially when you're coming in saying, hey, I have my own ideas that I'd like to do. The industry is a little like, well, hold on, prove yourself first.
Yeah, prove yourself for 15 years.
Yeah, prove yourself for 15 years, and then we may give you a movie that you don't even care about. So then prove yourself again.
No, I feel the same way. I was going to go for film too.
Oh. Okay.
I went from history to film and then to graphic design.
Oh, wow.
So I feel the same way. I was like, wait, what do you have to do for 10 years? You have to grab coffees?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yep, exactly.
So you actually did it though. So you actually know. You have experience.
I have experience. Yeah, and that's the thing. I still love film. I still love filmmaking. Ultimately, the end goal is to turn all these either into films or to shows, series, what have you. So that part's still a part of me, but this is just a way to, get the stories out now and also just see if people like it, because I could be thinking these are the greatest stories ever and then come to this convention and then everyone would be like, no, this is actually stupid. Mm-hmm. So, but thankfully people have actually liked my stories so far. So that kind of gives me, inspiration to keep going.
Yeah, and how much has the internet helped you with your business and everything, like finding collaborators and finding people too, like social people to buy your stuff?
Yeah, no, it's helped in every way imaginable. Like the internet literally is the driving force of everything now, So like I said, all the research I did from making comics, it's all come from the internet, right? If there wasn't the internet, there's no way I would be able to figure this out or to have access to this information. Being able to meet other people online that are also doing it, ask questions, it's so important. Social media specifically is so important because that is such a great marketing tool to then reach, audiences that you never even thought you could reach, and to really put yourself out there because we're also in a time where people want to know the face behind, the company, right? We've all been screwed over by all these big, CEOs and things like that. So people want to know that they can trust you, So being able to kind of put a face to something really helps people feel like they're a part of it. And so that's what I try to do with Stone Harbor Comics is I always try to make sure I put myself out there. So then when I'm at these conventions, people are like, oh wait, I already know you, or I feel like I already know you,
What age range do you think your books are for?
I would say my age range, I try to target young teens to young adults, so pretty much between, I would say 16 to 35 is the group I'm going for.
Nice. The 35-year-old for sure. Yeah, right? We have the money. No.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But that's cool too, because you do want to get the parents to give these to their kids,
Yeah.
you know, to read them. I've heard a lot of stories. My girlfriend actually is in the education field.
Okay.
There are junior high kids that are reading at a second grade level.
Yeah.
So do you think you could give your comics to these kids and like have them influenced into reading and getting creative and stuff?
I would love that. I mean, I feel like, especially in high school, the only things I cared to read were comic books. You know, I didn't like reading books because it was always connected to reading books that were boring, you know, or you didn't really care about. So I feel like everyone's capable of learning. It's just you have to actually care about what you're learning in a sense, or make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more entertaining. So comics were a way where I felt like I was still doing something to improve my reading skills because, you know, despite what people may think, like comics, they deal with some deep stuff. They got some big words in there.
They've never read Alan Moore.
Right, exactly.
Okay, we're back. I changed the camera battery. Do you have any words of encouragement or any tips and tricks for someone who is getting into the industry or, you know, maybe a little bit nervous about getting into it?
Yeah, my biggest advice, honestly, it doesn't really even have to do with like writing, drawing, or like anything about the craft. It all just comes to being confident in yourself and knowing that you are enough. And whatever your idea is, it is enough. And if you believe in it passionately, then that means that you need to do whatever you need to do to pursue that. Because if you don't, you know, you're always going to wonder, what if? And we are at a point, right? Like, I know it's hard to think like, oh, I'll never be this, I'll never be that. Like, anyone literally can be anything. Everyone's come from, you know, so many people, you've heard the stories, like come from nothing, gotten to a certain point, right? So that's the biggest thing, is get that out of your head, because that was something I struggled with my entire life, of like, oh, well, you know, no one's going to care about my idea. Trust me, if you like something, and this is what's great, another thing about this social media that's awesome, it's shown that like if you like something, or if one person likes something, there's probably so many other people that like it as well, even if it's weird. The fact that there are comic conventions right now proves that theory, you know? So if you have an idea, whatever it is, that's just like eating at you every day, and you're just like, I just need to do this, then that means do whatever you need to do to make it happen. And I guarantee you, if you care about it enough, you'll find others that care about it as well.
Imposter syndrome is real.
It's real. It's real. Imposter syndrome is real. And then the internet, I think, is helping tear down those walls, because it's allowing more people to show their process, right? Because before, we just, you know, we see people accomplish these things in the distance, you know, but we're like, oh, they're untouchable, you know?
Right.
But now we're able to kind of pull the veil back and be like, oh, everyone's just a person, you know?
Yeah.
And you don't have to be this like Prince-like figure.
For good or for bad.
Yeah, exactly. For good or for bad. You know, sometimes you get a little bit too much information. But,
Exactly.
But yeah, no, it's just knowing that like literally every single person, no matter how much success they've had or how little success, they're all just people. We're all trying to do the same thing, you know? So never think that you can never accomplish what somebody else has accomplished, because it's not true.
And with the collaborative process that comic books are, it's intuitively you can do a one-man show if you wanted to,
Yeah.
but most of the time you go writer, drawer, penciler, ink,
Right.
color. So what is that collaborative process like, and is it hard letting go of your baby? It's something that you have in your head and having someone else bring in their art into yours.
Yeah. The biggest thing that I learned is, in order to make it work, especially like in my instance, I'm the creator and the writer, right? So this is my idea, I'm writing the story, and then I'm hiring an artist to help me tell that story. The biggest thing is to be as clear as possible about what your idea is, what exactly you want. And that goes beyond just having a script, right? Of just the story elements. It's like, what's everything behind the scenes? What's the world like, you know? And describing as much as possible to the artist, because in the beginning I struggled with this, and where if an artist kind of didn't get what I was trying to do, I would get frustrated. But then I realized like, well, a lot of that's on me as the creator, because I'm not giving them enough information to really give me what I want. And ever since I made sure to just be as detailed as possible as what I want, it's made the collaborative process so much easier to where now I could just be like, hey, for this panel, I want this or this. And they'll come back and actually give me something even better than I was even thinking. You know, so the key is just you got to be able to communicate and over communicate, because the more information you give, the better.
Yeah, where are your socials? Where can we find you?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Stone Harbor Comics, or you can check out my website where you can get my comics online at stoneharborcomics.com.
Royce Adkins, Stone Harbor Comics. Was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, if you liked the video, feel free to subscribe. Also, feel free to hit that thumbs up button. It really does help us out here at the channel. And if you didn't like the video, appreciate you watching so long. Hope you have a good day, and we'll see you next time.